Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Eli. And Eli writes, "Hey, John and crew. So I was wondering if you heard that Tenet will only be shown in drive-ins if the movie theaters are open in that area. I understand that Christopher Nolan wants people to see his movie in a movie theater, but we are living in strange times. Thanks, and bring on the filthy." All right, man. Thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, the strangest piece of news came out that I came across yesterday. And it was basically that Warner Brothers let exhibitors know that, yeah, you may see Tenet in a drive-in, which is like the one thing that can be open just about everywhere. Like drive-ins are even open in California, where regular movie theaters are not for the most part. But we're not going to let drive-ins play the movie if they're in a city where regular movie theaters aren't open. This comes to us from Variety, who wrote, "But 2 weeks ahead of its domestic debut, scheduled for September 3rd, Warner Brothers offered some clarity to exhibitors about its plans for Nolan's latest. The studio issued strict guidelines to drive-in operators across the country, mandating that Tenet can only play in outdoor venues, aka drive-ins, if theaters in that particular market are also open." So the basic idea here is that if you live in a town where the movie theaters are open, which is the case for many places across the US and other places, then your local drive-in may be playing Tenet as well. However, if you live in a town where regular movie theaters are not open, like where Rob, you and I live in the Los Angeles area, then the drive-ins, which are open here, will not be permitted to show Tenet. I like what Eli said in the email, saying, look, we are living in certain particular times right now. We're living in particular times right now, Rob, where I think these studios have to understand, hey, for some of us, going to a drive-in is the real only option we have. Why would you not allow the one lifeline some places have to the movies, which is the drive-ins? Why would you not allow these places to show these movies? The folks over at IndieWire actually decided, one of their journalists there, Tom Brueggemann, wrote the following. He said, "Why Tenet is limiting drive-in screenings. Here's the logic behind the policy." So he throws up a couple of possibilities here. One is presentation is critical to Christopher Nolan. That's no secret. And even Eli, you kind of alluded to this in your message here. Christopher Nolan is all about the theatrical experience, and he is hypersensitive about the proper visual and audio presentation that audiences experience his movies with. I'm a fan of the drive-in, but let's be honest. The drive-in is not the world's best exhibition of movies. I mean, we went to go watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at the drive-in a couple of weeks ago, and in the dark scenes, it's hard to tell what's going on. And you're listening to the sound coming across the FM radio, which isn't always the best. And we still had a blast, don't get me wrong. Christopher Nolan is hypersensitive about how people experience his movies. Okay, there's that. But also he goes on to a couple of things about like pressuring theaters and also protecting theaters, that there's also a philosophy behind there to say to the movie theater operators, look, movie theater operators, we are standing with you. We believe in the theatrical experience and we stand with you, and we want to do everything in our power to emphasize the importance of the indoor regular theatrical experience. And by the way, if you wanted to know that for sure, just go back to DC Fandom. In every single panel at DC Fandom, all we heard them say over and over again, Rob, was in movie theaters, the theatrical experience. Can't wait for you to join us in theaters. Warner Brothers is very big on this. And I appreciate that. I do. As a fan, as a lifelong fan of the movie-going experience, I appreciate Warner Brothers' position on this and their philosophy of this and their support of the movie-going experience. I do. But Rob, we live in an extraordinary period of time right now. where you have a lot of fans wanting to support you and have supported you in the past and want to support your upcoming movies and all that kind of stuff, that we simply have no other alternative. We don't have the option to go to an indoor theater to go see Tenet. And you're saying that because I can't watch it in the best possible way, and under normal circumstances I would want to, you're saying since you can't watch it in the way we want you to watch it, we're just going to make sure you can't watch it at all. When your neighbor, 15 miles cross state line or whatever, might be able to. So I find myself in this position, Rob, where I appreciate the idea, but also feeling like you've got to be sensitive to the moment we're in. And just for this moment, you're opening this big movie, and I get it. Drive-ins aren't going to drive a lot of box office. You know, the drive-in theaters make up for about 1.8% of the overall box office totals that gets made in the U.S. I guess it's not a huge money thing, but it's just in this moment. I would think you would want to look at it a little bit differently. Anyway, Rob, how do you see this whole situation right now?
Well, I mean, you know, for us, we don't have a choice. I mean, we don't have anywhere to go see a movie here if you live in Los Angeles, unless, you know, you do go to a drive-in. And look, there is a financial reality about this movie that they can't get away from, and that's and a $250 million movie. It needs to make $1 billion really to break even. And Christopher Nolan gets what, 20% of the gross. I mean, he's got an incredible deal. So it behooves him to have this movie open across the world in movie theaters so the most amount of people can go see it. But when that isn't a reality and they're opening it at a time where coronavirus cases are going down some places, they're surging in others, what do you do? And I think what you do in that case is whatever venue people are going to go pay to see this movie, you got to take it. I mean, you really do. Otherwise, wait to open the movie when more people can see it and you can get more of an audience. I just find it strange that they didn't push the release back further, and it's going to become, I mean, by the time you and I get to see this movie, unless we go see it or whatever, what's it going to be, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months away? But I mean, you might as well buy the Blu-ray.
Now, look, at the same time, you and I both know that Christopher Nolan likes to see himself as a champion of movie theaters and of the movie-going experience.
Yeah, and so are we all.
Yeah, and so are we all. He really wants to get Tenet out there as soon as possible to really help kickstart everything. And I get it, because I've been getting a lot of emails from people saying, hey, I actually tried to go and get tickets for Unhinged, and my theaters are sold out. I've gotten people writing me saying, hey, I tried to go get tickets for New Mutants. It's sold out. Now, granted, we're talking limited capacity theaters and all that kind of stuff, but I think Christopher Nolan wants to be a part of that, of wanting to be one of the big things that really keeps the movie going, the movie theaters floating. And I get that. So I understand he wants to release as soon as possible. What I don't understand is that for the limited number of areas, because a lot of the places across the country are now allowed to have their movie theaters open, or will be very shortly. Now, whether that's smart or dumb, that's a debate for another time. But considering there's just a couple places, significant places, New York, LA, I mean, hey, if you're going to open the movie anyway, and we simply don't have our movie theaters open here, believe me, if your movie's good, Chris, if I can call you Chris, if your movie's good, Chris, guess what? I, and a lot of fools like me, we're going to rush to a drive-in. You know, if we live in an area where there's no open movie theaters, we're going to rush to a drive-in to go and watch your movie. And then, if it's good, when it's open up in theaters later on, we're going to go back and watch it again in theaters so I can see it in a better presentation. Again, I just don't see the drawback. What's the harm, Rob? That's my question right now. What is the harm of allowing drive-ins to show this if the theaters aren't open? It's not like we have a choice. It's not like they're saying, oh, you know, Los Angeles, you have to choose between having movie theaters open or drive-ins open. And if you make it just drive-ins, and we're not going to show. No, the theaters are closed. There's nothing we can do about that. What is that? Rob, if I had to put it to you and ask you to play devil's advocate here, what is the harm in places where theaters can't be open to let it be exhibited in drive-ins right now? What's the harm?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I could say play devil's advocate, but look, I know where he's coming from because I've been a home theater advocate since the very beginning. Anything that you could do from the time I was a kid getting my first VCR, I've had some kind of surround sound when there really wasn't good surround sound. I love the theatrical experience. But you know what? Most people don't care. If they can see the picture and they can hear the movie, that's okay. You know, I'm an audio video file. You know, I have been my whole life, but most people, and look, going to see a movie in laser projected IMAX with that thunderous sound, there's nothing better. It's orgasmic. It's like having sex with somebody who really knows what they're doing. It's amazing. And I'm not saying you always want to have that experience. Why would you not? But the fact is, you know, you don't always get that kind of experience. And if you're going to wait for that, if you're going to wait to have the ultimate experience in the ultimate theater, well, you're not going to see a lot of movies. And there are a lot of people that just want to be engrossed in a great story that'll watch a movie coming out of, God forbid, their TV speakers. And that's okay for them. So what you're doing is you're asking people to forego seeing a movie they're interested in unless they have the primo A-list #1 experience of seeing the film, whereas most people, it's lost on them anyway. What they want is to experience the story and the characters, and that's what they're looking for. I mean, hey, man, when I saw Blade Runner 2049, it was like a religious experience. It was so beautiful and loud, and it was great, and I loved it, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. But you know what? I also enjoy watching it at home, too. I wouldn't have liked to see it the same way, but most people don't care.
You know, and
they don't care.
Here's the other thing they're not taking into consideration because of the moment we're in. Even if the movie theaters in New York, Los Angeles, whatever, were open right now, even if they were open right now, there's going to be a chunk of people out there who may not feel comfortable going into a movie theater right now, understandably, given our current circumstances, but would feel much more comfortable or much more secure and safe going to a drive-in, being in their own car. So even if the theaters were open here right now, there would be a chunk of people that would prefer to go to a drive-in at the moment because of the safety issue. Anyway, while I very, very, very much appreciate Warner Brothers' overall philosophy here and supporting the movie theaters, you got to take the moment into consideration. And I think they're being a little bit short-sighted. Question here is, guys, what do you think about this idea that Tenet will not play in drive-ins unless movie theaters are open in that same city as well? Let me know your thoughts. Jump down to the comment section below and leave your opinions there. All right, guys.